My name's Shiloh.
My name's Gracie.
Um, so I was actually born in North Carolina, but I was raised here in South Carolina, mostly Somerville, most of my life. Went to high school here. I actually think middle school was one of the few years that I was actually in North Carolina, but here, like, I've been back and forth between South Carolina and North Carolina my younger years, but most of my time was here in South Carolina, and I've spent most of my years here in Somerville. I would say there are some good sides that I have witnessed and some bad sides I have witnessed.
Well, how was your childhood? You said it was North Carolina?
North Carolina was what? How do I explain North Carolina? I'm glad I'm in South Carolina, for one, I'll say that. Because I don't really, even as a kid, you would think that children, they're not really into like the politics of where they're living and stuff like that. But even as a kid, when I was living in North Carolina, I was questioning everything that the North Carolinian like the state government was doing. So when my parents moved down here to South Carolina for the final time, I was relieved. Like, I was glad, because South Carolina and North Carolina's governments are completely different. I'll give you an example. North Carolina took away castle law. Do you know what castle law is?
I'm familiar, but go ahead and explain it for us and my viewers.
Castle law is the law that states that you are allowed to defend your own property. They got rid of that.
Mm.
So if somebody broke into your house in North Carolina, you can't do nothing about it.
Okay. And
unless they're holding a gun up to your head and threatening to shoot you.
Okay. And
because you still have self-defense laws, you just don't have property law.
And that's something that you took to heart as a child?
Yeah, somebody broke into my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give an example. I was living here in Somerville, and I was on Ballantyne Drive, and I was a like young teenager at the time, probably 13, 14. No, I was 14, and somebody was trying to break into my back door, and I was the only one who had a bedroom on the downstairs floor, and I heard the rustling and stuff like that of the doorknob, so I went out to check it out. All I saw was a silhouette doing this, peeking through the back door. Oh. My immediate reaction was I ran into the kitchen, which is right there in front of the door, so he saw me charging him. He started trying to get in faster until he saw me go and grab the kitchen knife.
Goodness.
And I wasn't going to let him in.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
See, if I was to do something like that and try to defend myself, unless, like in North Carolina, unless he was actually threatening my physical being, that wouldn't have slide. So I feel much safer in this state than North Carolina. I will admit, though, there are some things you do have to watch out for here in South Carolina. Mostly, however, I've learned that if you keep to yourself mostly, you'll mostly be okay. But the things you got to watch around for around here is mostly like shady people, like drugs is kind of a problem around here. Like, me and my partner, we were helping a homeless person. They went to buy liquor from literally that liquor store, and we washed her bike for her. Whenever she came outside with liquor, she was like, "Oh, that's so nice. You didn't need to do that. You want drugs?" And I was like, "No, we don't want drugs."
Yeah.
Well, that was very interesting.
Yeah, it was very generous, very generous. Mm-hmm. So you said you defended your home and you were 14 at that time. Mm-hmm. Would you say that had any effect on you? Like did that stick with you for a while? How did your parents respond to that? My parents actually, they felt glad that I was awake at the time. Mm-hmm. At the time, me and my parents had a really big argument about how late I would stay up late at night.
And it was at this point in time, my parents were kind of glad that I stayed up that night.
It was almost a blessing in disguise.
So,
and you were 14 at that time, so you were about in high school. How was like?
I
how
was
would
in
you?
high school.
Huh?
I went to Fort.
Oh, okay, perfect. So how would you describe that your high school career was?
I didn't like Fort Dorchester, to be honest. Nothing against the people who go to Fort, but like, I don't like the school. I don't like the way, at least whenever I went there, I didn't like the way it was ran. It was way too lax. I had people, when I went there was a bomb threat. I had a friend who literally threatened to make a mustard bomb in school. He was my friend at the time. He's not my friend anymore. I actually have no clue what happened to him after that, but he threatened to make a mustard bomb, and then when I went there, I had another friend who got held up in gym because one of her classmates brought a gun and started threatening to shoot up the gym class.
Oh
So we went into lockdown on that. So, and bullying was a problem. Except I got bullied, but never physically, because I don't stand for that. I never let any of my friends get physically bullied either. Never. However, that never stopped the bullies from finding some way to bully us. So bullying was always a problem in Fort Dorchester as well. They didn't really crack down on bullying.
What kind of bullying would you say you were actually susceptible to?
Mostly, it didn't bother me much, but mostly verbal bullying. However, it would bother a lot of my other friends. I would stick up for them. However, whenever the bullies would go and start trash calling me, I'd be like, say all you want. And when I lived in North Carolina and I went to middle school, that's where I got most of my physical bullying from. So this verbal bullying that I came to whenever I came back to South Carolina didn't really bother me.
Okay.
So I was kind of just like, touch me. That's the only way you're going to hurt me.
Real.
And then after high school, what did you end up doing?
I actually, I left Fort because of all that reasons, and the bombs and the guns was what mostly made me feel unsafe going to Fort. So I ended up leaving Fort, and I did homeschooling for a little while. And I actually went through 2 years of homeschooling all in 1 year. And then I was stupid and I dropped out.
Okay.
This one's not stupid though. They graduated.
Yeah, I was homeschooled my whole life, actually.
Yeah.
I lived in the middle of nowhere, Holly Hill, South Carolina, my whole life, homeschooled. In a very religious circle of people in South Carolina. There's kind of, especially in the homeschool groups, there's kind of a lot of religion and stuff. So I kind of grew up feeling really judged just because of the way I am, who I am, stuff. But
And who are you?
well, I'm Gracie, and I just kind of express myself however I want to, you know? As long as I'm not being harmful, I just kind of try to express myself. And, you know, groups like that, the group I was in was kind of very cookie cutter, you know what I'm saying? Like, no piercings, you know, girls aren't supposed to have short hair, girls aren't supposed to dress a certain way or be tomboyish or anything like that. So that's kind of the odd one out. But yeah.
You would say that you just weren't willing to go with control, like someone else or some kind of preface of a culture having control over your life.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
And our personal beliefs, organized religion. Now, when I say organized religion, I don't really have any problem with like Christians or
Same.
Or like Islam or Muslims or like Judaism or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is, it's not the people that practice them. What I'm talking about is the religion itself. Organized religion this is just our personal belief.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cult-like in the way they try to make you follow.
Yeah, at least
steps.
some, you know.
I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe Jesus died on the cross and all that stuff. However, I do not consider myself a Christian because I do not fit within that their ideal of how you should live.
Yes, I'm the same way. And in my experience, like South Carolina is kind of very, very religious. You kind of run into a lot of religious people.
So if you wouldn't consider yourself a Christian, which by all means, that's within your right, what would you consider yourself?
Spiritualist, maybe.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I'm spiritually connected rather than... See, I personally believe God is my friend, not someone who absolutely demands all fear from you. I believe he's there to help me. He's there to guide me. He's my friend, not my enemy.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I'm connected to him more on a spiritual level than a religious level.
Yeah.
So I guess I could call myself a spiritualist.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. You know, was there any like incident like that you could remember that drove you to that made you realize, hey, I'm not with the establishment of church, but I am a follower of Christ. I do believe in God, and God's my friend. Was there any like situation that really put that in perspective for you?
I got kicked out of a bunch of churches.
Any specific reason you got kicked out of a church?
Because I would always prove the pastor wrong by bringing something up in the Bible that didn't make any sense, and he wouldn't have an answer to come to back up his saying, so he would get frustrated and be like, you're blaspheming against God, and he would kick me out of the church. For instance, I'll give a little example. This is a pathetic reason as to why I was kicked out of church, but when I was younger, this was actually in North Carolina, not South Carolina. This was North Carolina, and I went to, I can't remember the name of the church, but the pastor was talking about corn growing in Jerusalem, and I told him corn did not grow in Jerusalem because we didn't find out about corn until we came to America. And he was like, but in the Bible, it was talking about corn growing in Jerusalem. I was like, no, corn did not grow in Jerusalem. In fact, that might be a translation typo in the Bible. They might be talking about a different grain plant. And so they kicked me out just because I was trying to tell them that corn did not grow in Jerusalem.
Okay. What about you, Miss Gracie? Was there any specific situation that made you kind of come to the same thing?
I experienced some abuse in the church, actually, and not the Catholic church, the Christian church. And for me, that was kind of pushed under the rug because Christians like to think they're better than the Catholics, and that stuff like that doesn't happen in the church when it does, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
totally.
I was told, I was probably about 7. I was told that by a teacher at the church, I was told, well, you should have told me sooner. There's nothing I can do now, when that person was still a leader in the church.
Wow. And
yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like your voice kind of gets taken away sometimes. But, you know, kind of is what it is.
So you were 7 years old when you did try to tell someone?
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
How old were you when the abuse took place?
I think I was still about that age, 6 or 7.
6 or 7. And if you don't mind, do you mind sharing with everyone else kind of what happened? Because maybe there's other people that have gone through the same as you did, and they didn't have the same courage that you did to come forward.
Yeah, well, it was with one of the leaders in the church, not the pastor, and it was kind of like a repeated thing where I would be pulled aside, pulled into an office or something. And, you know, first I told my mom, and of course my mom was very upset about it, and she tried to talk to them, kind of got pushed away, and then I tried to talk, kind of got pushed away, you know? Kind of just like, oh, don't talk about it, you know? And they told my mom that, you know, it wasn't that serious. And it's like, it is that serious, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, she'll be fine, she'll get over it. Well, no, not really.
Another thing I don't like about churches is they'll try to keep everything hush-hush just to keep their reputation up there.
Yeah, that was essentially what it was. And my mom, you know, I was a kid. My mom's a great, caring mom, but she never took legal action.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of got to her head, people saying, oh, well, like, kids make up lies, you know? All that kind of stuff going on.
What did you say to your mother? And what was her initial reaction when you told her?
I just kind of came forward and was like, you know, there's this, I said, specifically, you know, he was touching me. I explained it to her because she asked me to go into detail, and I told her it made me feel yucky, and the reason I hadn't come forward about it is because I felt gross, and he told me to feel gross about it, and he told, you know what I'm saying? They do that kind of stuff. If you're a kid, they'll tell you, you know, you're nasty, well, like, I hate to say it, but they'll call you a slut.
Again, I just want to clarify, we're not poking at people who practice.
No, please don't.
Not at all.
No. This is you telling your story, and by all means, this was an older man.
Yeah, I mean, not super old, but definitely probably like, I mean, I have trouble remembering his face, to be honest, but he was definitely older. You know, he had made it up there in the church. He was a deacon. And, you know, it was really hard. And for me, that actually affected a good bit of my life. You know, once I started to get older, I started to get involved with bad men because I had this idea in my head that that's normal and I deserve to be treated like that. So I kind of got involved in that. It really deeply affected me, especially as a homeschooler, not really being around people, not really, you know, not really being aware of how that kind of stuff works. You know, I was never taught anything about sex. I was never taught about consent because that's a hush-hush thing in that kind of circle. You know, you're not supposed to have sex.
That's terrible. Let's let that pass, and then we'll continue.
If this does anything to help.
Well, we all appreciate, you know, a great exhaust system, but wow, Gracie, I want to say that I think you're very strong because you're still standing today, and thank you for sharing that. Truly, like, you know, that's something that a lot of people don't share, and I hope it's something that will give courage to any gender that's being abused by anyone to come forward and tell their story, or tell someone like an adult, and to not let go of it until something gets done. I'd love to hear, you know, what happened after you got out of the schooling system, because you were homeschooled. Did you go to college? Or
So I went to CSU, which is a school nearby. I liked it. I was studying psychology, but I kind of realized it wasn't really my vibe. So now I'm pursuing doing hair. Haven't gotten there yet, but that's something I'm pursuing. I really like the creative side of it, you know, the crazy colors and stuff. Like I said, I really enjoy that kind of self-expression. So, yeah.
She's planning on taking that free semester at Trident for cosmetology.
Oh,
yeah, they do, sometimes they do, like, free sessions. It's really cool. I really appreciate that, so I figured I would go with that.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. What about you, Shiloh? Is there anything you want to pursue? Any goals?
Right now I am a bit disabled. I have seizures and stuff like that, so I can't really hold a full-time job, and I'm waiting for my disability to start kicking. But my plan is, once my disability does kick in, I plan on taking a little bit of that money aside. I'm gonna go I forget who I have to register with. I think it's the American Kennel Club, and then I'm going to go and take classes and courses to become a dog trainer.
Oh, wow.
He's really good with dogs.
Nice.
I love dogs.
You have a connection with dogs?
Yes.
Cool.
He really does.
What's your favorite kind of dog?
Mastiff breeds. And if you're going to make me pick between all the Mastiff breeds, I'd have to say, dang, that's hard.
He loves the big dogs.
It's either going to be the Tibetan Mastiff or it's going to be the Neapolitan Mastiff. I really like the Neapolitan Mastiff because of their... I like both dogs because of their history, but the Neapolitan Mastiff, actually, you know what? I think I like the Neapolitan Mastiff more than Tibetan Mastiff, mostly because of its history being it started out as a Roman war dog.
Wow.
So...
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any personal issues or anything that's keeping you basically in the situation that you're in now?
For me, I struggle a lot with my mental health.
Okay.
I have, I'm dealing with PTSD. I have a disorder called borderline personality disorder, which is kind of something that formed due to my trauma and my experiences as a child and a teenager. It's kind of a disorder that develops over time, if that makes sense, from trauma. So it's really difficult for me because it causes like rapid mood swings and something called black and white thinking, where it's basically, self-explanatory. It's like thinking in extremes, and that can really affect my ability to make friends and keep friends and kind of keep a positive attitude, because I'm constantly thrown around like in my brain, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But, my partner Shiloh has really helped uplift me, and we both kind of understand each other really well.
Awesome.
He's someone I'm comfortable with, and I feel like no matter what, he's never going to judge me, and he's always going to be there for me. Meeting him kind of helped me start to believe in a higher being, because we met by chance. Do you mind me talking about that?
You can tell them how we met.
Yeah, we met in the mental hospital.
Okay.
And we've been together for about 1.5 years now, which isn't too terribly long, but over that time, I've just fallen more and more in love with him.
Wow.
And we met by such a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, just a small chance that we would meet, and we did.
Well, what happened? What happened? Like, what happened in the hospital that caused you guys to meet?
I saw him in the hallway on the phone, and I immediately was like, you know what? This guy is cool. I want to be his friend. And then once we started to get to know each other more and more, it's just, he has such a good heart, and he's such a beautiful human being. And I don't know when exactly it happened, but I just fell in love with this guy.
Wow. And what about you, Shiloh? Is there anything that you feel like is a personal, affliction or even anything that's outside of your control that's keeping you in the situation that you're in?
I really wish I had my disability right now.
That's fair.
Also, I feel like I do like South Carolina's government more than North Carolina's, but I do feel like there's a little bit of things that South Carolina's government needs to work on themselves.
Okay. Any examples you want to give of that?
For example, they need to start looking into medicinal marijuana, and this is coming from somebody who has PTSD and seizure disorder and tremors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I smoke a little bit of weed to help with that stuff.
Yeah.
I wish it was legal, at least medicinally, because it would help so many people. And in fact, I have a feeling right now, this is why I don't buy flour. You know what I mean by flour?
Yes.
I don't buy flour off of streets, off a random person off the street right now.
Yeah.
In fact, I haven't even been buying flour from my own plugs. I've mostly been buying wax because recently there's been a couple of big busts on fentanyl-laced marijuana.
Yeah.
That's a big problem here. Fentanyl is becoming a big problem here in this area of South Carolina, North Charleston, Somerville.
Yeah.
It's also becoming a big problem upstate too. I lived in Spartanburg area for a little while.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That even the police department, you know, if they're catching you with weed, they're not even, you know, arresting you. They're testing it for fentanyl, and then if it tests positive, then they pursue like, hey, where'd you get this from? But I'm glad you guys are conscious that those things are in the street. Do you guys have any substance abuse? I've had some people I've interviewed tell me that they have substance abuse. Do you guys suffer from that at all?
I had a really bad alcohol problem when I was younger.
Okay.
I started drinking when I was real young, around I drank my first beer at 12. And then I started drinking liquor around 14. And then I started like excessively drinking liquor when I got my first job around 18 or 19, and it was mostly gin. And it got really bad. Like, an example as to how bad it got, I ended up drinking an entire bottle of Blue Eddie's vodka one night, and like in the span of just a couple of hours. And next thing you know, the next day, my brother was telling me that I was trying to rip the toilet out the wall.
Oh, good.
So, had a really bad problem with alcohol. I don't drink that much anymore. They can testify.
Yeah.
I took a break. I went to rehab for alcoholism, and then after that, I stopped drinking for like a couple of years. And then I had like a year or two ago, I've had my first sip of alcohol again, except this time I've kind of learned from my past mistake, and I limit myself to like only a couple.
Yeah.
And I don't drink straight liquor anymore. I have to mix it with something.
Okay.
So I've learned from that. What's another substance that I've had nicotine. Nicotine will get you. Watch out. If any of your viewers haven't started smoking yet, my only advice is never start smoking. Don't smoke nicotine. Ever. All it takes is one drag off of a cigarette. You're stuck. I've been trying to quit since 13 years old. I am now turning 26 this year in October, and I have not been able to quit.
Okay. And what about you, Miss Gracie?
Surprisingly, not really much. I think, honestly, you know, as much as I talk about, you know, the whole religious environment and stuff, I think one thing that was good is just my limited ability to get my hands on that stuff, because I feel like if I would have younger, I probably would have developed a problem. Just me personally, the way I am, you know, not everyone experiences that, but I think I would have. Okay. But because of that, I've never really had much of a problem, surprisingly. Just like a couple of prescription medications, but it never got out of hand because I have good doctors that help me out, and they can kind of notice when something like that's going on. So I've, you know, never really struggled with that too much.
Okay. So before we wrap this all up, I like to always ask, what's one piece of life advice from each of you that you just know to be true and something you'd like to pass on?
Never give up.
Never
just
give
keep
up.
going no matter how bad it gets. You know, in your head, you think that it's never going to get better, but just keep going. Keep pushing through, no matter what. You won't regret it. It's my advice.
I'd have to say don't judge a book by its cover, because the person that you might see walking down the street with tattoos and all that stuff might be the same person that saves your life from something.
It's a good take.
Well, thank you, Shiloh and Gracie.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the interview. And of course, you guys give me full consent to use this on my social media?
Of course.
Awesome. Well, you know, I wish you guys the best. And I guess last thing, do you guys have any family you want to give a message to?
I love you, Mom.
I love my whole family. And then,